I wouldn't want to be starting anywhere near a recently fired Kevin Magnussen, which I was really shocked that didn't materialize into anything. I figured that he was going to be involved in a very heavy crash on turn 1. And then the next point is, holy shit, Joe Biden just dropped out of the race.
Speaking of getting the party started.
For the victory lap, though. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I should overcome. What for? Train in the trees, please pardon my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands, and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Switch gears, we keeping haters in the rear. At the blood, sweat, and tears, and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. And today, we break through. 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 And today, we break through.
Hold on 1 second. And post. Hello, everybody. It's time for your favorite F1 and football podcast. It's the Gridiron Podcast. Excuse me, I had to retweet Nick for a second. As always, I'm Sean Barie, and joining us here.
What? I'm going to stop you right now. I don't think you're using your right mic, and it sounds like you're 500 feet away.
This is the only mic I got, Nick.
You sound like you're on your webcam mic.
Oh, all right, well, tell you what. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to come back in. You guys take it from here. Bye.
Well, okay. There he goes. As Sean said, it's episode 41 of the Gridiron Podcast. Katie, can you pronounce the name that's in this rundown?
Oh, the Shane Gostisbehere episode.
Why is it spelled like that?
It looks like it's got to be here.
Yeah, you're right. And you got to be here to watch the Gridiron Pod. We're live on YouTube and Twitch. You can always find us on your favorite Spotify, your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever else you find them. It is episode 41. I'm Nick Shook. That is the Canadian Queen, Katie Caldwell. And as I am quickly learning in real time, I am not nearly as good at introing the show as Sean Barie, but because of technical difficulties, he has stepped out. So you're stuck with us two. We're roughly 1,700 miles apart, but we're close in your heart right now, you, the listener. And Katie, we have a hell of a lot to talk about. You know, this is a football and Formula One podcast. The only one that I'm aware of, the only one that most people at least can contend that they've heard of before. Not that many, but we are growing. And we had one dramatic race in Hungary, did we not?
We certainly did. Oh, we need Sean back so badly because he was the one that said that this track never produces a good race.
Yeah, so we're going to flame Sean while he's gone. And hopefully his computer doesn't take forever to restart because that would really kill my ability to vamp and just fill airtime right now. I'm so used to Sean hosting that it's almost as if I've lost my. I'm a co-host. I am not the main event, the MC, but we will push forward because Sean has a lot to talk about here specifically because he's a McLaren fan. McLaren finished 1 and 2, and after Sean lambasted this race as being as boring, if not more boring than Monaco, it is named Monaco after the walls. We got an incredibly exciting race, especially in the last 10 laps. Katie, I'm thinking about the races this year. How many races dialed up in the last 10 laps like this one did?
It's so hard to say. This season, they've all been so good. Like, we're not used to this. Last season, there was a few standout ones, Vegas, Singapore. This one, it's like I get them all mixed up, I feel, because every single one is dramatic and entertaining, and we're coming off a season where that simply wasn't the case. The last 10 laps, like, this race is an interesting thought exercise, though, because without all of the drama on the radio, I don't know if it actually would have been as exciting.
Yes, exactly.
But it felt so cinematic because there was so much added extra drama. Like, the radio was such a big part of that race, what made it so iconic.
Now, this is the same reason that people watch reality TV. Are you a reality TV fan, Katie? I feel like we've talked about this.
Any like trashy reality Netflix show. I think I've talked about this on the pod before. Yeah. I am an avid viewer. I love that shit.
So what drives you to watch it?
Ooh, that's a good question for my therapist.
Step into my office, Miss Caldwell. Please sit down.
Well, first of all, deeply single and lonely. But a lot of them I just find like they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing with bringing on the right castmates and then ending every episode with a hanger. Like, but it's so much fun when, I don't know, when you go in and there's no producers and no anything, but like it feels like we're watching live Drive to Survive this year more than ever.
Right. That's the thing, though. Reality TV has a producer. F1 does not. Well, I mean, you can make the case about Michael Massey in 2021.
Michael
but that's
Massey.
neither here nor there. Yeah.
It's
We
a
went
motor
motor
race, Nick.
It is, though. And I just can't recall a race in which there was so much drama in the final 10 laps, and so much of it was built off of not racing as much as like interpersonal drama. Like, I feel like we should just recap what happened from the jump. Like, first off, again, and I really wish Sean was here, and I'm gonna dump this all on him when he shows up again.
Is he in the waiting room? Can you check on
No, he's not. That's the thing. He's not down here. Come back, Sean. We need you. We're struggling.
We're on our
for
own,
air.
Nick.
I mean, it's fine. You know, we're a dynamic duo. We can make it work. I just like it when Sean recaps the race because he does better than me because I don't like recapping races.
And
but
he's a resident McLaren fan.
and we need to roast him and congratulate him and roast him and stick his feet to the fire and put him through the entire range of emotions, much like McLaren did to Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, kind of, you know, in collateral damage. I mean, okay, so let's synopsis real quick. Lando Norris started P1. Oscar Piastri P2. Front row lockout for McLaren. First time I can remember that happening. Sean texted me on Saturday. Since
Brazil
2012
was the last time.
I was in college in 2012. Oh my God.
So was I. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. That was a long time ago. I had hair in 2012. Okay. And
Jesus.
I don't now. All right. Can't make a ball joke if I own it first. They have a front row lockout. And for what, the fourth time this year, Katie, Lando Norris fails to hang on to pole position beyond the first turn. He gives up P1 after the first turn. Gives it up to his teammate who had a nice move inside and he left him space. Carnage kind of ensued, not in terms of wrecks, but in terms of people complaining. And that's when Max Verstappen started to get very upset. I don't like to go chronologically here because essentially what happened was Oscar got out in front, built the lead. Lando fell back in the pack. Max gave the position back to Lando after arguing for a while with his engineer, and that set the tone for the entire race. I don't know why, but Hungary was just one giant race filled with arguments, you know, just fights over the radio that I don't recall ever hearing from so many drivers at once. Katie, among these fights, which one was your favorite?
McLaren versus itself. I
think that's where we have to get into the continuation of the synopsis because the race goes on. Oscar's out in front. They box each driver with the expectation and the intention that Lando is going to be out in front, but they are going to invert. Oscar is going to regain his P1, rightfully so. And then Lando decides, you know what? I don't think I want to do that. I think that I would like to maintain the lead, and this is my race to win, at least for a long time. And Lando's engineer gets on the radio and repeatedly tells him, hey, you need to change positions. Hey, you need to change positions. Lando just silent driving, just speeding around this track. And the tension builds. And Katie grabs her popcorn and continues to chomp and filling out her vibe notes that we'll get to later. And at one point, the commentary team cannot help but just focus solely on what does this mean about McLaren? Why is Lando doing this? What are these interpersonal relationships going to be like? This is going to be a strained, you know, relationship between two young drivers that are suddenly the face of a rising team. And then what happens with 3 laps to go, Katie?
Oh, it was so painful. They were bugging Lando for laps and laps and laps, saying you need to give the position back. And man, it felt like guilt tripping. It felt like gaslighting. They're making it so personal. They're saying things like, think about all the meetings we've had on Sunday mornings. And they're trying all these different angles in a situation where they created this mistake. Had they pitted Piastri first, we're having a totally different conversation right now. And they recognize what they've done and they keep going over it and keep going over it. And they're updating Lando and they're updating Oscar. And the broadcast keeps saying, Andrea Stella has to get on the radio right now. He's got to get on here right now. And then we kept not hearing him. it honestly was a situation where if we're watching this radio conversation happen in the F1 movie, we're like, okay, all
Yeah, that's
right.
never
Like,
gonna happen. Yeah, all right, Hollywood.
because in real, like, there are guys that are dramatic on the radio. Like, we've seen Lewis when he really gets in his feels and he gets really down. And we've seen, like we did again this race, we've seen like 2021 Max Verstappen, where there's a lot of attitude and pushback, and then like Yuki screaming at people on the radio. But this one was so memorable because I've just never really seen anything like that, where it just felt like such a microcosm of how McLaren's season is going. And that seems weird to say when they got a 1-2. They finished as good as they possibly could have.
Right.
But
And
the
yet,
vibes leaving that race were not celebratory. 1-2, our youngest driver just got his first win. It was like, okay, right away we're gonna go into interviews and we're gonna talk about team orders and decisions, and I felt like it stripped so much joy away from someone who already barely feels any excitement or emotions in Oscar Piastri.
all right, well, guess what? Sean's back at the perfect time, and we turn to the resident McLaren fan to give us his take on this nonsense. Sean, can you hear us?
Hello, everybody,
Sean,
and welcome to
there you
episode 41 of the Gridiron Podcast. Wait, sorry, no, we're not restarting. Okay, cool. What'd I miss? I know we're talking about McLaren, but how far into the conversation are we?
Well, you left us to paddle in the deep end, and me and Katie are still alive. Neither of us have drowned, but we definitely missed you. I mean, no episode is bigger for you, for your role in this show, than right now. First off, I was reminded that I don't enjoy doing intros, and I liked it when you do it. And then secondly, I realized that the value of this podcast dropped significantly without the resident McLaren fan here. We just were recapping kind of what happened, but I want you to take us through your emotions as you watched all of this unfold.
I mean, initially, you can't be mad at Lando for the start that he had. He had a good start, just Oscar had a slightly better start, and then you left Lando to have to cover Oscar and Max Verstappen. He kind of got pinched into the inside. Max, overtakes him out of bounds, gives up the place. From then, it's Oscar's race to lose, because Hungary is such a difficult track to pass on. It is Monaco without the wall. So from that point on, I'm like, wow, all Oscar has to do is bring it on home. My problem with the way this finished, and Katie, I heard you say, it's bad vibes there at McLaren. This is like, it's amazing to say the team that I've been rooting for the past couple of years, who never wins, right? This is what I've been waiting for, the dream season. They finished 1-2, and we're all talking about radio messages, and we're all talking about team orders. We're not talking about Oscar getting his first win and a team 1-2. McLaren would like us to talk about that, but no one is, in fact, talking about that. We're talking about, why did you pit Lando first twice? And they're going to say, well, it was to cover off Lewis. Yeah, but that put Lando in a position where you didn't want him to be in. Okay, it put him in a position to win the race. It put him in P1 on the final stint with his teammate behind him. If McLaren truly wanted Oscar to win that race so badly, they would have given him the preferred strategy. Not to mention, coming out of that final pit stop, Oscar had a little whoopsie-daisy. Didn't pick a bouquet of whoopsie-daisies, but he had a little bit of whoopsie-daisy, because he goes into the gravel, I think it was on turn 12, and that gave Lando a whole bunch of time. Lando was already pushing, okay? And then Oscar messes up a little bit, and then you start to see, well, he's not catching up at all, right? Suddenly, Lando opens up a near 6-second gap between him and his teammate back in second place. All the while, McLaren is giving Lando messages. Hey, conserve your tires at turn 4, turn 11. Hey, on the exit of turn 6 and turn 9, you can take it a little easy there. Just telling him, hey, slow down. We need you to switch with Oscar, because they told him, hey, we prefer, we'd like you to switch back places once it's convenient to you. When is that ever going to happen in F1? When it's convenient to the driver who could win the race. The other problem is, when Oscar kind of went into the gravel a little bit on his outlap, headed into that final stint, that gave Lando a whole bunch of time to play with. And then Oscar couldn't catch up. You heard Lando say, tell him to catch up. Like, it's a 6-second
but it
gap.
wasn't said like that, Sean. It was said like, well, if he wants to, like, he essentially said, if he wants to win so bad, then he should catch me. Be better, bro.
What's wrong with that?
Which
Would you like Lando to pull over onto the side of the road, wait 6 seconds for his teammate to pass him? No, that's not racing. So I can get why even some fans, non-McLaren fans, are upset, because if you're in Hungary, you pay to see a race, right? You tune in at 9 a.m. or in Katie's case, 7 a.m. Mountain, 7 a.m., 6 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m.
I'm Mountain Time.
Time zones.
Mountain Time. Gotcha.
Time zones.
I always forget. You tune in so early to see a race, not a display. So I get why some people are irked, and I get why Lando is frustrated, obviously. I get why Oscar is frustrated.
Mhm.
They were both put in an impossible situation because of the strategy of their team. And honestly, if I'm Oscar, I hold no ill will towards Lando. If I'm Lando, I hold no ill will towards Oscar. It's not their fault.
It's the team.
It's the team that messed this up. Somehow they messed up. They didn't really mess up because they still brought home both cars 1-2. But can we just talk for a second about just the emotional manipulation that was going on between the McLaren pit wall and Lando?
That's what we were into before you could join us.
Emotional gaslighting of Lando.
Yes.
You can't do this alone. You need the team. You need Oscar. Lando. Think of Oscar.
Of everything we've ever done.
Think of the children, Lando.
Think of the children.
Won't someone think of the children?
Won't someone think of the Australian child behind you? I mean, they were literally just emotionally gaslighting Lando, and he handled it just about as well as he could have. There were a couple of moments where, like, all right, stop being a little childish. But at the same time, how many times have we seen this throughout F1 history where the teammate didn't move over? They didn't give up the lead. Okay, we're thinking about Sebastian Vettel. We're thinking about Max Verstappen. We're thinking about Lewis Hamilton, all world champions. And something in Lando said, you know what, this time I will play nice. And he's got my respect for that. Would I have done it? I don't know. I think it was the right thing to do. But at the same time, I would be on here defending him if he had kept that place.
There's just so many interesting layers and levels, most of which are just very bad for McLaren, which you wouldn't think we'd be saying this today. Like in our predictions last week, I said Lando I predict for first because I think they could have a Mercedes-esque weekend where everything finally comes together and you stop making all these mistakes, and that success can coincide with the success of building such a fast race car. It wasn't the case. It did not feel like that at all. Mercedes was such a different feeling. It was so celebratory, and this was just so different. And Sean, like with Lando, you said, like, you bring up Max and Lewis and everything. Lando has one win, and how many times has he started on pole where he thinks that he's going to get that win? Like it just feels like it's yet another occurrence of like, you're so close, you're almost there, he's leading the race, and the team takes that away from him. Like when you only have one win and that would have doubled your wins. Andrea Stella, he said that this one was a flag for me. He said a big part of it when he was asked was not wanting to put pressure on the pit crew. So he said, I just didn't want to have a situation at the pit stop where there's a problem that puts us behind a Mercedes or a Ferrari.
Won't someone think of the pit crew? Lando,
if you're going to be an elite team, you have to trust your pit crew. In Silverstone, we saw this already where they didn't double stack their cars and it cost Oscar a chance at the win. Your pit crew needs to be hearing, especially from the very top, that you're trusted. I like him. I think he's done a really great job with that team. But there are a few red flags with things like this. Like it is, again, giving Ferrari 2022, where you've got this incredible race car, you've got two great drivers, and it just doesn't come together every weekend like it should.
How about him?
And Lando is second in the championship.
Yeah,
and
that doesn't make sense.
I wanted Oscar to get the win. I thought he deserved the win, but from a purely team strategy, Lando was not that far back from Max. Like that kind of shocked me too. There were so many layers to this race.
I also have to say, so did you read out the team messages yet? The radio messages?
No, we haven't gotten to any of that. But I do want to say this before we get to that, Sean, because the chat is active tonight.
Oh.
Albert over on YouTube said, I came to hear Sean's reaction live, but I guess he had to leave the stream to choke on his words from last week.
Thank you, Albert.
Boom. Roasted. Sean, what'd you say last week real quick?
I don't even remember.
You said Hungary was
that's funny.
the most boring race of the year?
I did. I mean, was it the most Can we call it a race? I mean, they didn't even let the two lead cars race each other.
It
Can
was
we
in a
call it?
race
I'm
the
kidding.
first
I'm going
lap.
crazy right now.
Max and Lewis made contact.
It was a great race. I know this is the F1 season we're getting. Just when you think they're about to zig, they zag, especially if you're Max Verstappen. It's again, man, it was McLaren's fault. I can't stress this enough. It was the team's fault for putting Lando in a situation like that. A driver that is second in the championship that mathematically has a chance to win a world championship this year. Does it look like it's going to happen? Probably not, because, there's less and less time to do that now. But to go back to what you said, Katie, Lando has had a race taken away, or a win taken away from him, from Max, from his own mistakes. You don't need your team to take one away from you as well. And
here's a good point for the chat in the same vein as that. If McLaren had a winning mentality, this is Albert again. He said, if McLaren had a winning mentality, they would have pitted Oscar first and not worried about covering Lewis behind. What do you think about that, Sean?
I agree wholeheartedly, Albert. That's the point I made when I rejoined the podcast tonight, I guess, is this, again, was the team strategy's fault. And by the way, I think it's hilarious they sent their chief strategist up there on the podium to celebrate with Oscar and Lando.
Yeah, interesting.
They should have sent the guy in charge of the tires that they were invoking, like, hey, manage the tires. The guy in charge of the tires is saying manage the tires.
It's one of those things where, yes, that is completely correct. They should have given Oscar the preferential strategy, but for some reason they gave it to Lando twice. And I said this, if you were sitting on my couch Sunday morning watching this race with me live, you would have heard me tell my girlfriend, why are they pitting Lando first? Why are they pitting him first again? Like, I told her, I said, they're really effing over Oscar right now. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. And then they had to rely on Lando being a good teammate, which thankfully for Oscar, he was. Otherwise, we were going to get a Mark Webber, who is Oscar's now manager, and Sebastian Vettel moment. What was that in 2012? Seb. Multi-map 21, Seb. Multi-map 21. Seb just did not care because it was another race win in his cap.
What were your emotions going into the third to last lap? Like, right when they're on the broadcast going like, what is Lando thinking right now? Why is he doing this? And then he turns the final turn down to the straight and slows down. What were you thinking leading up to that?
I will tell you, I said, I hate it, but I respect it. I was okay with it. Like, I was cool. I was calm. I was like, this sucks, but you know what? Good for Oscar. It's a team 1-2, and Lando's going to earn my respect for this. But my better half next to me was absolutely livid because she is an older sister. I am a younger brother. And she started talking about all the times that she was told, oh, just let your little sister win. Oh, just let her do it. And I swear, it like triggered her. And I was like, I don't understand why you're so upset. And she's like, of course you don't. You're the younger sibling.
As the eldest daughter, I understand that to the depths of my soul.
You get it. Exactly.
I get it.
Only this is potentially worth tens of millions of dollars. If I could, real quick, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. I mean, everyone talks about this, but the radio messages, it's I'll read the last one. End of the race. Lando's pit chief tells him, well done, or Lando says, well done, a good 1-2, good loads of points, congrats to you all, well deserved. His race engineer says, as I said this morning, mate, loads more opportunities. You don't know that, especially this season of all seasons. You don't know when those opportunities will come.
You kind of do, though. Like the last month they've been there.
Yeah.
Lando's the one who's fumbled him away more often than not on this. Well, he kind of did in this one because he gave up the lead in turn one.
Okay. Was it Lando Lando that's come up with bad strategies time after time? Was it Lando that dive bombed into him? More often than not, there have been outside circumstances that have cost Lando a race win than his own driving.
Don't make excuses for him, Sean. He's blown multiple opportunities from P1. We know this.
His team has blown multiple opportunities from P1 for him.
Both
They're
things
doing a good
can
enough
be
job
true.
of that themselves.
Both of those things have happened.
The
Katie,
wise one
stop
here.
being a mediator. Stop it.
Thank you,
I don't know. I
Katie.
just wanted to
Again.
get it, Katie.
My facts do not care about your feelings, Sean. We've gone over this.
Facts, not feelings. The Gridiron Podcast. Any other notes on McLaren coming 1-2? By the way, they are now the odds-on favorite to win the Constructors' Championship. Do we think they're going to do it?
Yeah, because
There's one
Checo,
Checo.
he got into the points, but like, yeah, who cares? Like, he got into the points off of strategy and a superior car. Like, that's it. I don't
Absolutely.
expect anything
Yeah.
from him.
Another crash in Q1
Yeah.
in the cost cap era. Like, what are we
Oh,
doing
you know what
here?
I love? I saw a meme and it was like Checo doing an interview and Danny Rick standing behind him going, like smiling over his shoulder, and it was like Q1 recap.
Man. And you heard them after the qualifying say, was it after qualifying or after the race where Christian Horner was quoted as saying, we can't keep running one-legged.
Mm-hmm.
And then Helmut Marko said, we're going to, basically reevaluate and make a decision after Spa because this last week goes into the summer break.
Yeah.
I mean, to Checo's credit, he had a quiet, good race. He did finish in the points, but at the same time,
You're in a Red Bull.
Yeah, you shouldn't be bowing out in Q1. Like, Logan Sargent can't be out qualifying you, and he has been consistently these past couple of weeks.
Lord.
Shot
Checo
fired
hasn't.
on... Go ahead.
Sorry. Checo hasn't finished in the last 7 races. Hasn't finished in the top 6 one time.
Not once.
Seven races.
Not one damn time in 7 races. That's unacceptable for Red Bull. Shot fired at Sean from the chat. Albert back here again. He says, this is the type of behavior I expect from a man who named his dog after Lando.
This is where all of us will push back because we all dearly love Lando Barie.
Exactly.
So let's not bring the kids into this.
Yeah, I'm fighting words, man.
Out of it. This is a fight between adults.
I just tell him he's named after Lando Calrissian. Again, both things can be true.
Oh,
sure. Yeah, that's a great excuse. Sure. All right. Rest of this race, because there's a lot more to talk about.
Oh, is there? I thought it was just the McLaren one too. Did we give Oscar his flowers already? Because I hate to detract from Oscar winning his first race. His mom tweeting at 6 a.m. doing like a jump in front of the TV.
I love Nicole.
Love Mama Piastri. Yeah. By the way, I didn't know this until I read it in the doc that he was the first winner born this century. God, we're old.
We are old.
Isn't that horrifying? He was born in 2001.
Yep. Kid doesn't even remember 9/11. I mean, he's Australian, so I'm sure he wouldn't. But yeah.
He was like 6 months old. Yeah.
That's my point. That's my marker. My little sister was born in 2000. I'm like, what do you remember about 9/11? She's like, nothing. I was like, of course you shouldn't. You were a baby.
You know what?
It's so funny you say that, Nick, because as soon as I saw his birth date, I was like, no way. He was only 5 months old, but 9/11.
Yeah, see? I'm telling you, man, for us, it was like,
and I'm not American.
Yeah, exactly.
What I always ask is, who is the Red Power Ranger? And if they answer anyone but Tommy or Jason, they're too young.
Yep, yeah. They are. You're right.
I don't think I ever knew their names though. I knew the Power Rangers.
Kimberly, I feel like you'd be on board.
Well, everyone knew Kimberly.
Kimberly, duh. I live in Kimberly. I mean, yes, but that was the only one I remembered.
Billy was blue. Billy was blue.
I forget yellow.
Oh man, Tommy was green for a while, but then he moved.
Came back as the White Ranger.
White, but then he became red at some point. Yeah.
No, Jason was the Red Ranger.
But Tommy also became the Red Ranger at some point.
Now I'm confused because I can't remember if I was still watching Power Rangers.
He definitely became the Red Ranger at some point. And then we got Turbo and Space and Galaxy. God, I love me some Power Rangers.
We digress. Oscar Piastri, the least joyful first-time race winner in the history of F1.
Ever.
My kid has no emotions.
Well, I think the circumstances kind of dictated his emotions in that moment because he realized he only won. Like, you only won because your teammate let you pass. And at one point, again, going back to the radio messages, Lando was told, okay, you've proven your point. Like, we get it. You're faster than Oscar right now, but we need to switch back. Like, he was told, you've proven your point. So that was Lando saying, I can beat you still. I'm going to let you win. So, yeah, if you're Oscar, an awkward way to win. But, I mean, hey, it's a win. In Formula One, they don't come often.
Well, and his first technical win was a sprint race, and everybody knows how I feel about sprint races and how pointless I think they are. But it's so funny that with that, it didn't really feel celebratory because there was such a big asterisk beside it that it's a sprint race. It's not a Grand Prix. And this one felt like it had the asterisk beside it. Like, Sean, before you rejoined us, Nick and I were talking about how it just didn't feel super celebratory. Like, all of the interview questions afterwards are about team orders and all the drama of all of it. It's for someone that doesn't feel any emotions to begin with, it was just such a funny person for this to happen to.
It's kind of a bummer, but it actually is pretty fitting considering.
Would you want to
fitting.
win your first race that way? Like your first
No.
race, would you want to win? Yeah.
No, I wouldn't want to win my first
Again,
race
an
with
impossible
childish.
situation.
Like, look at
where you put
George's
both the
first
drivers in.
race.
Yeah.
Where everybody's crying, like it was such, and then like Charles winning in Monaco, like that wasn't his first race, obviously, but there are really, really big moments for drivers, and this didn't feel like it had that gigantic, wow, I can't believe it, full body chills. We were all still just thinking like, ooh, this is not great energy in the room right
This
now.
is gonna be awkward. I mean, credit to Lando. As soon as he got out of the car, he went over and he dapped up Oscar while he was still in the car. There was the shot of him like throwing away the hat in the cool down room, and then he didn't spray Oscar with champagne. He went right over to Lewis and sprayed him with the champagne. Although Oscar did
He
something.
got himself
cheeky.
in the face though, Lando.
He got
He
what?
did, when
The
he like
champagne
did
pop?
his champagne pop, he like kind
And
of
then
got
there's the
himself
funny
in the
moment where
face.
Oscar moves his trophy back from the ledge because we all know Lando broke Max's winner's trophy last year. They are porcelain in Hungary and worth like $40,000 each. So there was some cheekiness to it. You didn't see any hostility between Lando and Oscar. I think they were both good sports about it. And if I'm them, I'm texting each other like, man, can you believe what they just did to us today? The hell, bro?
They're probably trauma bonding in the chat.
Probably, yeah. And Zach Brown's like, it's okay, guys. I'll take care of it. Papa will be back soon.
He was in Toronto, wasn't he?
He was in Toronto, yeah. He was watching
For what?
the IndyCar race.
So he wasn't even there
man.
for Oscar's
Priorities,
first
No.
one.
man.
And then
All
they
right.
sent out an awkward celebration video.
Can we talk about the return to the petulant 2021 version of Max Verstappen, please?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about that
We
for the past couple of
can.
weeks. You just haven't been listening, Nick.
Well, I mean, we hit a new low or a new high, depending on what you prefer, Katie, this weekend with Max, who was lambasted on the international feed by David Croft for staying up late sim racing and getting up early to sim race before racing in a real race. And he was using that as explanation for why Max was being a child on the radio without recognizing the fact that when Max is not cruising to victory, he tends to be a child. That's just who he is. And he was a little cranky, woke up on the wrong side of the bed, didn't want to hear much from GP this week. No, everything was bad. The car won't turn. The strategy's terrible. Oh, I'm pushing right now because I have to get us back in the race because you guys screwed me on strategy. That was my favorite part about that was GP. Well, that's quite an introduction. Well, yeah, I'm trying to make up ground because you put me in such a bad place. I'm trying to save my race after you ruined it. I'm just like, oh my God. Kid throwing a tantrum at Toys R Us because he can't get the $150 toy. He already hit his allowance on his birthday. Dear God, somebody remove this child from the store already. Holy hell, guys.
And then he ends it all. Well, not ends it all, but he caps it all by dive bombing Lewis Hamilton, who sends him airborne, which memories.
Oh,
like
we're
old
so
times.
back.
I love it. As soon as I saw Max's car and just his front wheel go or his back wheels go airborne, I'm like, hey, seen that before. Lewis
like,
knew what to do with there.
It's like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme from
And
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where he leans forward and points for the TV.
Exactly. Thank you. That's what I was trying to reference. No, as soon as Max dive bombs Lewis, that is, and Lewis, you can tell he doesn't turn in, but he has to turn in at some point. I would like to think that under his helmet, under his visor, Lewis just kind of smiled to himself. He's like, and now, and just turned his wheel in at the exact moment to just pop his tires up. I mean, Max is lucky that there was really no damage to his car. But that was just chef's kiss.
Guys, I have to say that's the first time in my life that I've watched an F1 broadcast and heard somebody lock their brakes so badly that I heard a screech on the feed, like a tire screech on the feed. Like it was like, I was like, oh my God.
And then I love the excuse too, because Max immediately gets on the radio. He was moving under braking. Really, Max?
GP's
Max totally locked up.
Max, I'm not gonna argue with him, Max. It's childish. I love that his race engineer was calling him a child. Call him out for it.
They were both so locked in, both Max and GP, and it was just so dramatic. And
you don't often see that.
I miss that.
You don't often see that from a race engineer, like actually standing up to the driver. I feel bad for these guys sometimes because they do have to take a fair amount of abuse, but he was giving it right back this weekend.
That's the beauty.
Because we're so used to Max being 45 seconds ahead from everyone where you're not in the mix. And typically we'd hear him once in a while come on the radio and it's like, oh, the left front isn't feeling super great. And it's like, oh, still going to win by 45 seconds.
LOL,
it's just
JK.
so fun him being in the mix because you can feel so much more of the urgency in his voice and the panic in his voice on the radio. Like the radio messages are some of my favorite parts of the broadcast.
It was,
so
and
this was
I
one of my favorite races of the year for that reason.
I kind of ruined it a little bit by talking about McLaren's messages, but there were some other great ones too. Nick, you mentioned Max, being called a child and then just basically just ripping into his entire team, calling it a shit strategy, like you said, trying to save what's left. He wasn't happy with his P5 finish. You also have, I didn't hear these messages, but, Alex Albon getting, I guess, ticked off at Williams. You had Daniel Ricciardo, who said that this was one of his most frustrating races ever. He was brought in on medium tires on lap 8 and given a set of hards and sent right back out into traffic. And eventually everyone else caught up on the same strategy. And a rough day for Daniel Ricciardo after he's had a really good run of good form here lately. And then you had, which I think is a more interesting one, because we were all talking about McLaren. What's going on with James Bond villain Jr. there, Katie? What's going on with Lance Stroll?
Oh, what is going on with Lance Stroll? I know Fernando was losing his mind.
Yes. So Fernando was given team orders late in the race, and they said, hey, we got to go chase down Yuki. Let Lance pass you. And Fernando said, hey, okay, we're fighting for peanuts here. Go ahead. And they said, but if he can't catch Yuki, we're going to switch back. Okay. Lance was given the order to switch back. Never did. So that's why you see the video after the race of Fernando Alonso just tossing his jacket onto the floor, tossing his cap on the floor, and just walking off. Again, acting like a little bit of a child. But again, this is just a good lesson for Fernando to learn. You will always be number 2 in Papa Stroll's eyes.
Yep. Daddy's always going to prefer his son, even if it doesn't make any sense. It was funny on the international feed. They were even talking about like he's battling with like Kevin Magnussen. And they're like, oh, I'm sure when Fernando Alonso re-signed with Aston Martin, he didn't expect to be battling with a Haas. And then Croft slides in and he goes, oh, but it's also a testament to how much Haas has improved. And it's like, but really? Like, really? Are we, I see you trying to spin it, but is it though?
It was just a great race for drama. And I mean, was it the best racing race we've ever had? No. Even this season? No. But for drama, for pure drama, this was the most dramatic. If we're going to give like, Golden Globes or Oscars at the end of the season, this wins Best Picture by far, because this was just perfect. And no notes. At some point during that race, the producers of Drive to Survive were just like writing down notes and just saving all of these radio messages that they're going to sprinkle in at the random moments in their season that have nothing to do with the Hungarian Grand Prix, but they're going to use those. It's going to be like the British Grand Prix, and you're going to hear Max like talking about, no, this is childish. No. So good on you, Drive to Survive. We're all expecting it.
Are they going to have like 17 episodes this season? Like, how do you cut anything out? This season has been so dramatic.
We got to go full Brad Pitt for an episode. Don't forget about that.
Yes.
Oh my God, I still can't believe that's a thing.
This week, a new bombshell enters the house.
Enters the villa. We were talking about reality, but close. Yeah. We were talking about reality
TV. I mean, Drive to Survive is the most reality TV that I watch. Any more notes on the Hungarian Grand Prix?
No, this season's fun, man. This is exactly what we thought we were getting a month ago. And I think it's just going to get more and more fun because Max is not going to be able to do it on his own. He's feeling the pressure. I'm telling you what, man, we got a great second half of the season ahead of us.
Oh, I'm so excited. I find myself feeling more grateful. And I never thought I'd say this, but we've talked about it a lot before, that greatness can be boring, whichever. And I find myself so much more grateful that we saw Max in what he did last season. That was really crazy to see one driver dominate so much. And it really showed how good of a driver he is versus Checo. Like, there's a second driver there that isn't doing anything. But it's so much fun to have that and then head into the season. Like, none of us thought we'd be having any of these conversations. No one I heard, nothing I read, anything heading into the season. We thought it was going to be the exact same as last. Red Bull's going to win every single race. I'm grateful that we had that. And then we step into this season and it's like total chaos. We have 7 different race winners? And we're not even at summer break yet.
We weren't asking how. We were asking how many races are Red Bull going to win this year.
Yeah.
Like, first podcast of the season, we were like, this is going to be one of the most boring races of the season, but hey, let's all get ready for that Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari fight for, P2, 3, 4, maybe Aston can join in. Hey, this should be fun. Silly season will be fun. Man, it's so great. So I hope that here's my hope for the rest of the season. I hope that we do start to get a challenger to Max, like someone starts to catch up. I mean, at this point, it has to be Lando. Maybe Charles can kind of, but like the Ferrari really isn't right there. But at this point, like if I'm McLaren, like you throw your full weight behind Lando at the point. I mean, here's the dilemma though. Do you sacrifice a Constructors' Championship to get Lando a World Championship? Both are within reach. One is way more achievable than the other, that being the Constructors' Championship. So I don't know, but it's going to be an interesting second half, you know?
Oh, it makes the Lando decision just so much wilder to think about that Lando was second. Like if he's right in the midfield, it doesn't make a difference. But man, when you're the closest one to Max, it's wild.
God forbid he goes and loses the championship by like 8 or 9 points, like the difference between P1 and P5.
Exactly.
And you're thinking, there's Hungary. Like you could be up there. Oh man, that's tough. Katie, vibes notes?
Yep, I have them this week.
Would you be so inclined?
I'd love to. So for very important context, timing wise, I watched it like 3 hours after it started. You'll tell eventually why. You'll know I wasn't live watching it at 7 a.m.
I know why.
It's insane.
Katie was spammered.
No, not even. No, you'll see, Sean. So the first point is, I think Sean is going to see a great race. This season has been far too fun for him not to. Next point, manifesting a super British George Russell radio message, and that didn't happen, unfortunately, but we did have a good radio day. I wouldn't want to be starting anywhere near a recently fired Kevin Magnussen, which I was really shocked that didn't materialize into anything. I figured that he was going to be involved in a very heavy crash on turn 1. And then the next point is, holy shit, Joe Biden just dropped out of the race.
Again, 3 hours after the race
Oh,
happened, yes.
This is the greatest 5 notes
That was
ever.
exactly my reaction, too. I was like, oh, holy crap. Anyway.
Then she hit us with a Jover text.
It's Jover. That
Jover.
I
didn't understand
found out,
what
Sean,
happened
was
when
from
she
me
sent
saying
that
it's
text. I was like,
Jover.
wait a minute. What? I was like, what? Huh? Oh, snap.
I'm so happy you found out. And for those that don't know, I'm a really big law and politics nerd. I used to work in law before I went back to school for sports, so I'm very politically active and politically minded, so I took off like 3 to 4 hours before I got back to the race because this was a very wild piece of news, but it made the vibes notes. Next point, okay, we're back. So this was on like the formation lap that he dropped out. So I was like ready to go. I've got my coffee, I've got all my snacks, and then I'm like, oh my God. So many hours later, I came back. What a great start by Piastri. And then it's still strange seeing Max in the pack without working his way through right away. Gasly had to retire the car again. I forgot about that. Alpine is just an absolute nightmare. Oh, how I've missed Max and Lewis fighting. And then it starts. It says, next point, I don't understand what McLaren is doing with these team orders. Next point, what the hell are they doing? Next point, loving all the sass on the radio today. And then in big capital letters, oh my God, Max is airborne. Next point, oh, we are
look, he's
so
flying.
back, baby. And then this McLaren situation feels very messy. Race ends. Wow, both Charles and his son winning a Grand Prix this season. For those that aren't extremely online, Charles has adopted Oscar Piastri as one of his sons. Get this weird drone angle out of here.
Yeah, that was
also
awful.
hate the drone angle?
It was so
On
bad.
the last
drone's
lap,
not
they're
fast
showing
enough.
it, and they haven't perfected it, and it feels very awkward. And there were some
Yes,
big
awful.
moments in the race where I was screaming, "Get this drone angle out of here!"
I
Usually I'm
didn't
okay
like
with
it on the last lap. It's kind of like if you remember, like on Sunday Night Football a couple of years ago, they for the third quarter they did the NBC it, and it was supposed to be like
Yeah.
the Madden view. And I'm like, get this, no, get it out of here. I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah. Okay, almost done. This one's a 2-pager. Where are we here? Seeing Lewis Hamilton on the podium is a religious experience for me. Next point, Oscar Piastri has still never felt an emotion.
Turn the page. Bing.
Turn the page. Sean, I fear you've just seen a very entertaining race at the Hungaroring.
Oh, boom, roasted again.
I was thinking about it the whole race. I'm like, Sean's gonna hate this race.
I don't understand why that was such a controversial take, because at the time, like, yeah, this race sucks.
It's not a bad track.
It's not. It's a hard track.
I like this track, Sean. And then the last point is, woof, these McLaren post-race vibes are not what they should be.
Nope.
That was kind of the whole theme of all of the vibes notes throughout the entire race was like, what is McLaren doing? Ooh, this is kind of weird. Whoa, they're being sassy. Whoa, Joe Biden dropped out of the race.
just off the wall. Everything was off the wall. And those were
What a
Katie's
Sunday.
vibe notes for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Do we want to do some Spa?
Yeah, let's do a quick preview because we got to move on to our other topic.
Spa predictions here real quick.
Long old podcast tonight.
Yeah, Nick, go for it. Your Spa predictions.
We're gonna go. He's a choke artist, but we're gonna go Lando Norris P1. He gets his redemption because McLaren's got the best car out there. Max Verstappen P2. Lewis Hamilton P3. Yeah, it might be chalk, but you know what? 6 months ago, this is the furthest thing from chalk. So take that chalk and shove it where the light don't shine. I don't know.
Okay.
I hadn't thought about this. For once, I don't come prepared. I will say I think Lewis gets another win.
Okay.
I'm into that. P2 Oscar.
that.
I'm into that. And then P3, I'm gonna say Max.
Oh, bait and switch.
Yeah.
Wow. It's been a while since Lando's been off the podium and finishing a race. Wow, he finished a race. Nick, I'll agree with you. I gotta keep saying it until it happens. Lando P1, but he is traditionally really good at Spa. I will go Max Verstappen P2. Man, I don't know. Yeah, I'll go Max P2. That car didn't like Hungary. It was bad strategy. I don't think that's going to happen too many times in a row. And, Max can still drive.
I'm putting the brake differential to -5, and the thing's still not turning.
Yeah, blah 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 blah. You don't need to turn too many times at Spa. It's a very fast track. So yeah, I'll give Max an edge there, and then I'll do Oscar P3. I will do Oscar P3 because this is a race where he's going to need to manage some tires, and he does not do that very well.
Can we all right
no
now
Ferraris
manifest?
for any of us.
No, screw Ferrari.
No, because I picked
out.
them last week and they shot me in the foot.
They did, but they did look better. Charles got
Yes.
P4, and
Yes.
that was scoring as many points as the previous 4 races combined.
Yeah,
12 points.
Sorry we didn't get to you, Charles. But there was too much tea to talk about.
No. And I also did like Martin Brundle's mention of he called him Charlie. Little Charlie Leclerc.
Sorry, Charlie.
Can we all take a moment here real quick as my phone falls out of my lap to manifest good weather, because Spa tends to be rainy, and while rain is fun for F1, we don't need a torrential downpour that turns it into a parade. We don't need a parade. Okay, we got that a few years ago. I don't need a parade. I always worry about that when we go to Spa. Rain gods. I don't know what your name is because I'm not into mythology or astrology or any other thing that ends in ology. Maybe mixology. We'll come back on that. I just want you to keep your rain away from Spa this weekend. That's it.
I'm also big into bracketology. That too.
Oh, that's
but only
good.
once a year during the month of March. All right, that's the Hungarian Grand Prix. Let's move on to week 2 of the Gridiron Podcast NFL Division previews. Last week we had the awesome Carmen Vitale on the podcast to break down the NFC North, so go check out that episode. This week we are breaking down the AFC South. No guest this week because we knew we were going to have a very long podcast talking about F1, so we're just going to basically go it alone. And we're going to start off, guys, as we normally do, with the division winner. We're going to work our way back through the division, and we are going to basically read out their schedule. We've even got some graphics that Katie worked on this time, so you can see the schedule at home if you're watching on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube. And then we're just going to predict over under a win total. You guys ready for the AFC South? Maybe we can get through this in like a half hour. I think we could do it.
Speed
Less
rounds,
than
let's go.
that. Yeah, I don't need
let's
to talk
do
a
it.
lot about the AFC South.
Yeah, for real. That's why we kind of chose it this week.
I like to hear Katie say South, though, because her accent shows up a little bit. So if we could say the South as much as possible, that'd be great.
South? Say South, Katie.
South.
Sooth?
South.
Ooh.
South.
South.
No,
South.
it came out before.
Hey.
No, now she's trying hard.
Yeah. All right, starting off with the team that miraculously won the division last year. going from 3-14 the year before and the number 2 overall pick to 10-7 and into the playoffs.
Last two first.
The Houston Texans. Nick, throw up their schedule there on the old screen. There we go. Houston Texans, week 1. Starting off at the Colts, week 2 at home against the Bears, week 3 back on the road against the Vikings, at home for a 2-week swing against the Jaguars and Bills.
Ugh.
Week 6 on the road at New England, week 7 on the road at Green Bay, back home against the Colts for week 8, week 9 against the Jets, week 10 at home against the Lions. That should be a fun one. Week 11 at Dallas, week 12 at home against the Titans, week 13 on the road against the Jags, and then a very late bye week in week 14. Then you got 15 against the Dolphins at home, 16 on the road at Arrowhead, 17 at home against the Ravens. Ooh. And then 18 rounding off the season in Nashville, taking on the Titans. They won the division last year with a 10-7 record. CJ Stroud cemented himself as a rookie phenom. In the offseason, they went out and got Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. They won 10 games last year. They've got the first place schedule, though, this year, so it's going to be a little bit tougher. Guys, over under 9.5 wins.
Katie.
Interesting. Oh, over. I have 11-6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I am into it. And last year, I will fully admit, I definitely hit the under on the Texans. I was blown away by their moves. I didn't think their team was close enough to be giving that much draft capital away. And I was totally incorrect. Everything came together. They were so fun to watch, and we're seeing season 2 of CJ Stroud, and he has so much to work with now. I'm excited about the Texans. They're just getting Tank Dell back, who looked, Nick, I think you've talked about this. He looked like the steal of the draft before his injury. You said it, Sean. They brought in Stephon Diggs. They also brought in Joe Mixon. They added pieces on the defense, and their defense already looked really good last season.
Yep.
I'm stoked to watch them. You said it. They do have a tough schedule. They finally have expectations on them. Can they meet those expectations? With D'Amico Ryans and that coaching staff, I honestly think they can.
I love it. I love it. I think they can too. Now, I caution against this because, we talked about this with Carmen with the Lions last week, but every time a team does well in the previous season, I always try to poke holes in their theories, right? Like, all right, well, what are you going to do when this breaks or when this breaks or when this doesn't go right? How are you going to survive the adversity filled NFL season that every team encounters? And yet, I do get a little bit of 2019 vibes, like 2019 Browns vibes from the Texans, just because they're now everybody's favorite. Like, they're going to be on magazine covers if those still exist. But the thing is like the difference between them and the 19 Browns is that a lot of this is relatively foolproof. You have a franchise left tackle in Laramie Tunsil. You have a rising superstar in CJ Stroud, who is not only a good quarterback, he's also a hell of a personality on camera and has taken full advantage of that this offseason. You went and added Stephon Diggs to a receiving core that was already doing well, but now you have a clear number 1. That's going to open up more opportunities for CJ Stroud's favorite receiver, Nico Collins, his other favorite receiver, Tank Dell, who would have had a 1,000-yard season as a rookie had he not broken his leg in week 11 or 12. I'm doing the all under 25 team right now for NFL.com, and I want to put Tank Dell in there so bad, but I can't justify it statistically just because he got knocked out. They're loaded offensively. They got Joe Mixon for a 7th round pick. Guys, I just love this offense. Bobby Slowick knows exactly what to do with CJ Stroud. And then defensively, they go out and they get Danielle Hunter, which is a swap for Jonathan Grenard. It's a better talent now without a longer-term future. It doesn't matter. They're here to win now. D'Amico Ryans has turned this team into a winner. It's a winnable division, and you have
right
the quarterback.
away.
And
He
right
did
away,
it instantly.
When you have the quarterback, you got a shot.
Yeah.
And they got a good team around him. I love the Texans. I'm going over by a long shot. Let's give me 12 or 13 wins.
Love that.
Man, you took the wind out of my sails because I was going to say, can you put their schedule back up on the screen for me there real quick,
Sure.
Nick? I just want to point one thing out. That second half of the season, again, you got to stay healthy because you have a week 14 bye week. And then look at that. Week 13, you got the Jags. They're going to be tough. It's a division game, so that's always going to be extra tough. But then you head into the bye week. You better be well rested because then you've got the Dolphins, Chiefs, and Ravens. Woof. That is a hell of a gauntlet to end the season with. And then, you better have a playoff spot wrapped up by week 18 because the Titans are one of those teams that always just seem to not be hanging around week 18, but seem to be just playing well week 18. I don't know what it is. Maybe some of it was their, former coach, but it just, I don't know. The Titans always just seem to come up with a weird win. I'm also going to go over. Granted, I think I set that line a little easy, but this team, I don't know what the weakness is, because last year they had a strong defense. And like you said, Nick, if you've got the quarterback, it makes things a lot easier, and you have the quarterback in CJ Stroud. So I will go over. And I think they're the clear favorites to win the division. Sorry to all of those who rep the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ugh.
Sean's favorite fan base.
Jaguars. Whole bunch of
Shock
Jags. Whole bunch of Jags. Throw up their schedule, Nick.
Okay, you can continue talking over it as I slowly zoom in on it. Here we
Famously,
go.
last season, they pretty much had a playoff spot locked up until they didn't, and they fumbled the bag late in the season. All they needed to do was win Week 18 against the Titans, who were already knocked out of the playoffs, and they couldn't even do that. I laugh at you, Jacksonville. I laugh at you. Week 1, they're taking on the Dolphins on the road. Week 2, at home against the Browns. Weeks 3 and 4 on the road against the Bills and Texans. Excuse me, I'm going to slow down. Then they've got a 4-game homestand, something you don't often see in the NFL.
2 are London games.
Oh, goodness me, I see that there. London game.
Bears, Patriots, London games.
Why I took away
Katie,
the lower third, Sean,
Katie,
so you could see it.
Katie, what did I say? What did I say that was factually incorrect?
Oh, you're right.
He's right. He's right.
Thank you.
Second home, London.
What are you talking
true.
about? They have 4 home games. This is the London/Jacksonville Jaguars.
Sean,
week 5,
when you're right, you're right.
Yeah. Well, week 5, they're in Duval County against the Colts. And then week 6, they are in Lancashire. I don't know what county London is in. They're in London against the Bears in week 6, week 7 in London against the Patriots. Then they're back at home in Jacksonville against the Packers. Week 8, week 9 on the road against Philly. Week 10 back at home against the Vikings. Week 11 on the road against the Lions. Bye week is week 12. A lot of late bye weeks in this schedule so far. Week 13 at home against the Texans. Week 14 at the Titans. Week 15 home against the Jets. 16 on the road in Vegas. Week 17 at home against the Titans. A lot of back and forth here. And then finishing things up week 18 in Indy. Won 9 games last year. Lose Calvin Ridley in the offseason. Bring in Gabe Davis. I can't think that they're going to be as bad and as up and down as they were last year, but I don't know. You never know. I set the line at 8.5. So I don't know. I don't know what this season will predict. If I'm just looking at the schedule, I mean, I see surefire wins.
Chivalry, Katie.
Katie?
You want me to go? Oh, I can go. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's a tough start to the schedule. 3 of the first 4.
Brutal schedule.
That's a brutal schedule. And you're against the Dolphins, Brown, Bills. None of those are easy. 3 of 4 on the road. And then in the next 4, you go to London. Man.
They could be 0-4
and then Trevor Lawrence.
Week 5.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a world in which they could be. And Trevor Lawrence, I know he was dealing with multiple injuries, but he had such a tough stretch to end the season. I think he had 10 turnovers in his last 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
I am still in the camp of, I don't fully know what Trevor Lawrence and this offense really is. Like, to me, it feels like he's almost there.
Well, he's almost.
The Jags offense
he
is
is
like
the highest
almost
paid quarterback in the league.
Yeah, but I just feel like I haven't seen enough to convince me that he's in that top tier. I don't know how hopeful I am that the Jags are going to get there. I have 8 and 9 for them.
Yeah.
Maybe 9 and 8, but I think I'm going to take the under just because, I don't know. I just haven't seen anything from the Jags offense, especially, to really get me super excited about this team. And the division is kind of getting better around them. I think the Texans are obviously better. The Colts, I think, could be better than people expect this season. I don't love the Jags this year.
Yeah.
Question: What's a Jag?
A jag?
Yes.
A Jag?
This is when the accent comes out, folks. This is why you listen to the Gridiron Pod. You watch it on YouTube so you can see Katie's great graphics, and you listen to it even more intently so you can hear her Canadian accent shine through. No, I agree, Katie. It's I ran through this as Sean was running it down, reading it out, and I don't like to play the schedule game, but as I'm playing the schedule game,
it's literally what we're doing for the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, that's a loss. That's a loss. Like, I looked at the first 4 and I was like, that's 0-4, unless the Browns suck, which you never know. And then I was like, the Colts is not going to be easy.
The Colts aren't going to be an easy out.
No.
London, it's friendlier to them than most teams, and they do it for 2 weeks in a row. So maybe the bounce back is in week 7. But if the Bears are what
Well, and it's
Carmen
the
makes them out
Patriots.
to
They
be,
should be fine
yeah,
against the Patriots.
yeah. But if the Bears are what Carmen makes them out to be, then that's a tough game.
Mhm.
You come home against the Packers, who are rising. The Eagles, if they're anywhere near their potential, I mean, there's not a single easy game in those first 9 weeks, and so there is no bounce back. Like, you think maybe you come away with the win over the Patriots, and that's it. And then you get to week 10 and you play the Vikings, and that's probably a win. But you're not sure about that. You lose the Lions, you go into the bye week. Like, I'm trying to be generous, and every game I look at and think that's probably lost. Well, we'll give them 1 win back just to kind of balance it out. I got stuck at 8-9 being generous, so I'm going under. Like, I don't feel good about it. Like, they could score a couple meaningless wins in the last 3 weeks, but by then the season's over and Doug Peterson's on the hot seat if he's not gone already. And you're absolutely right about Trevor Lawrence. Like, they paid him because they had to, because they believe he's the guy and it was time to pay him. But I don't know if that contract's going to look good long term. The things I've heard about him that I won't really mention specifically, but the things I've heard about him is that he's not going to grow very much more. He's a guy playing on talent, not on the rest of the game. And I'm concerned that is going to sink them combined with this schedule. They should bounce back and be better than they were last year because they crumbled down the stretch last year. I'm not saying last year is a harbinger of things to come, but when I consider everything else I know and believe about them, and I look at this schedule, I just don't see more than 8 wins. So I'm going under.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I mean, it's the Jags, so I don't root for them. So yeah, I'm going under. But like at the same time, I feel like if we were to see more from Trevor Lawrence, I feel like we would have seen more of it at this point in his career. You know, he's gotten the fat paycheck, and normally when you get, highest paid in the world type money, you have more to show for it than a playoff win. You know what I mean? Especially that schedule. Yeah, unless the Browns mess up, maybe the Bills. I don't know. You're looking at 0-4 to start. Yeah, the Bears are going to be tough. The Colts, we'll get into them in a second. They're not going to be an easy out, especially if Anthony Richardson can be healthy and can improve on the kind of flashes that we saw from his rookie season. So I'll go under because, yeah, Katie, this is right. The division itself is rising. It's not, quite to the level that it was. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think they're going to get caught on the outside looking in and face a lot of questions again. So, yeah, I'll go under probably around 8, 9, 7, and 10. Yeah. Sorry, Jags fans. Anyway, moving on.
Are you? Are you sorry?
No, I'm not. No, I am not. Let's go to the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis Colts missed out on the playoff spot last year. They drafted Anthony Richardson in the first round last year. I had some choice words to say about Anthony Richardson, having watched him at Florida for a couple of years. I saw the talent. I saw the raw talent, but I didn't see a first round quarterback. And to some degree, he proved me wrong a little bit, but you still saw the mistakes early on, but well, then we never got to see it because he tore his ACL, right, Nick?
No, he had a shoulder injury, and they showed him after a month.
Concussion first, and then came back, and then shoulder injury.
I see. Yeah. So, yes, riddled with injuries. Obviously, he's injury prone. Count him out already. But no, we did. Right, exactly. We did see like some flashes of like, oh, there's that freak athlete. Like, awesome. Okay, so he could be fun to watch. Throw up their schedule, Nick.
Ooh, I'd say more than flashes. That's interesting.
What's up?
I just said I thought it was more than flashes. That's interesting to hear about Anthony Richardson.
I would call it flashes. We didn't
read it down, and then we'll let Katie state her case.
All right. Week 1 at home against the Texans. Week 2 on the road at the frozen tundra. Well, the pre-frozen tundra. It's thawing at that point. Weeks 3 and 4 at home against the Bears and Steelers. Week 5 on the road against the Jags. 6 on the road against the Titans. Week 7 back at home against the Finns. 8 and 9 on the road against Houston and Minnesota. Week 10 at home against the Bills, then on the road against the Jets, back at home against the Lions. Week 12, week 13 up in New England, then a bye week, week 14. My goodness, why is the NFL so mean to this division with the late bye weeks? And then rounding off the Final Four on the road against the Broncos, back at home against the Titans, on the road against the Giants, and then week 18 finishing things up at home against the Jags. Katie, over, under. What did I set them at real quick? I had the first 2 memorized. I didn't have this one memorized. Over, under also, I'll go 8.5.
Over.
Okay.
Over. I have 9 and 8, but I could even go 10. I'd be comfortable saying 10 wins. Even without Anthony Richardson, they were right in the mix at the end of last season. And like they could have won the division with Gardner Minshew. And I am a Gardner Minshew fan. but we'll just say that. I
Lord
really
help us if
like.
Joe Flacco has to come in and lead this team on another playoff run.
Lord help us. I just really liked what Shane Steichen was able to do with that team. I'm super excited to see what this offense can look like this year with Richardson back. It was so much fun watching him last season. I thought that we saw more than flashes. I thought we were watching a really, really good quarterback that ended up being exactly what we thought he could be. I know it's a short sample size. That was my take on it. That might be wild, but when I look at their schedule, like Patriots in week 13, after that, like week 13 on, that really eases up for them. Then you get a bye, get healthy. I think they could make a late season charge before the playoffs. I think there's a world where they're in the mix, maybe for a wild card, maybe for the division. I think the Colts are going to be a talking point this year, especially with the play of Richardson.
Yeah, I feel like we were just given a taste of what Shane Steichen could do with Anthony Richardson before he was hurt and shut down for the rest of the season last year. I'm with you, Katie. It was more than flashes. It wasn't great. It wasn't perfect. He was still inaccurate at times. But the beauty of it is Steichen quickly recognized and reacted accordingly by implementing Richardson as a bit of a pseudo Cam Newton. Like, that guy's an athletic freak, and he was not afraid to run him, and it put defenses, on their heels. They struggled to keep up with them in that first month. If he hadn't gotten hurt twice, I think they would have gotten out to an even faster start. The fact that, like you said, Gardner Minshew kept them, competitive. It was really Shane Steichen keeping them competitive and Minshew avoiding sinking the ship. So if you put the quarterback back in, it raises the ceiling. And like Katie said, down that stretch, that's exactly where I went with this mental breakdown as I ran down the schedule real quick. I thought Patriots, bye week, Broncos, Titans, Giants, Jags, they could win all of those games. They could finish on an extreme hot streak. And maybe they missed the playoffs by a game, and everyone's talking about the Colts like they did the Lions going into last season. That's going into 2025. Or they sneak it into playoffs, and they're, a bit of a chaos creator. Either
That's
way,
when you want to be hot.
Yeah, it's a fun time. You want to get hot late in the season. They got to stay healthy to do it. Richardson, of course, being the most important guy to stay healthy to be able to get there. But I like the potential because of the way the schedule sets up. It's still a tough first, month and a half. But I do think that this team, while I haven't agreed with a lot of their personnel decisions that Chris Ballard has made over the years, I feel better about this team than the Jags. So I am also going over. Where'd you have them? You said, Katie, 9-8?
9-8, but I wrestled with 10.
Yeah, I'm right in that range. I feel comfortable at 9-8, and on the fringe of the playoffs, maybe they get in. That's where I'm at.
I'm going to stop
I'm
letting Nick
saying
go
they're
second
in.
because he keeps taking the points that I want.
Well, Sean, what do you expect? This is what I do for work.
It really is. I know. I don't know why I let the expert go first, but no, I was going to credit Shane Steichen for the job he did with both Richardson and then Gardner Minshew last year to keep that team really competitive down the line. I had them looking at the schedule. I had them at 8 wins. But the NFL can sometimes be a fickle mistress. So I will also go over because there's probably a game that they're just going to take. And it might be,
the Jets
against the Steelers. It might be against the Jets. It might be the Lions. It might be the Bills. Who knows? Like, they could just steal a win from one of those games. Not that beating the Steelers would be a steal. Bills, Lions,
nice,
Dolphins.
Nice.
That would
way
kind
to,
of be
way
a
to
steal.
check yourself. No, the Bills wouldn't be stealing us or being.
No, probably not. I mean,
No.
I'm just thinking the last couple of years. I'll go 9-8 as well. Just because you're right. I feel better about this team than I do about the Jags. Even if Richardson gets hurt again, you got a guy, you got an insurance policy in Joe Flacco, and we saw what he was able to do with Cleveland last year. That might have been a one-off, miracle or,
it was
catching lightning in a bottle. But
it was.
I feel better about Joe Flacco than Gardner Minshew at this point. Last but not least,
I will not
maybe
accept
least,
that.
the Titans.
Oh,
guys.
Duke it out.
The Tennessee Titans. What?
Fight.
Oh, there's no fighting to be had. I'm just a fan of Gardner Minshew as a
I am too.
I'm
I
a big
like
fan.
Gardner Minshew too. I mean, the guy literally lives in Florida in a van during
Down
the
by
summer
the
rain.
river.
That's what he does. Yeah.
Of course he does.
You didn't know that?
I
Yeah, he
love
drives.
that for him. I did not know that.
He drives his van down to Naples, Florida, and lives in his van during the summer and works out down there.
My heart. I just love this
Yeah.
man so much. Just
Yeah.
as a human being walking on this planet. I'm just happy he exists. That's it.
We're not happy the Tennessee Titans exist.
No.
Are we?
Everyone knows I'm not.
So here's the thing with the Titans. I have no idea what they are, but they might be fun to watch and they might be a train wreck. So throw up their schedule for me, Nick.
That's right, Sean.
All right. Week 1 for the Titans on the road against the Bears. Weeks 2 and 3 at home against the Jets and Packers. Then on week 4 against the Dolphins. And then lo and behold, a super early bye week, week 5. Week 6 back at home against the Colts. Week 7 and 8 on the road against the Bills and Lions. Back at home for week 9 against the Pats. Week 10 on the road against the Chargers. Then back at home against the Vikings. On the road against the Texans. Weeks 13, 14, 15. All in the friendly confines of Nash Vegas, taking on the Commanders, Jags, and Bengals. Week 16 and 17 on the road against the Colts and Jags again. And then wrapping things up against the Texans in week 18. This is a team in transition, okay? You bring in a new head coach. Will Levis is given the keys to the offense. Another quarterback that showed flashes last year, just not consistently enough. But let me read off. Can I go first real quick? Can I just go first this time and let you guys duke it out?
Yeah, Katie's cool with it.
Kind of on a roll at this point. Here's 3 names: Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd. That's a heck of a receiving core that Will Levis has to throw to.
You forgot the most important name, Will Levis.
Yeah. I said Will Levis.
Look, man, he was better than I think anybody, including myself, thought he would be last year, but it wasn't. It was his success.
It wasn't enough.
Fleeting. Yeah.
No. I set their over-under at 7.5. I'm going to take the under, but I think they'll still be fun to watch at times.
Yeah,
Fun?
That's fair, Katie.
That's rich. I have the under. But I
That's
don't
rich.
mean to be such a Titans hater. I lived in Nashville.
That's rich and competitive.
Like you said, Sean, and like we talked about the Vikings last week, I don't know what they are. And I thought some of their offseason moves were a bit strange. I'm still really blown away that they fired Mike Vrabel. Like, I didn't get that at the time. I still don't support it. Maybe I'll totally be proven wrong. But I always thought, I've said this on the pod before, that he's that coach that he can extract more from the players than he has any right to. And Sean, you said it. Like, they've always kind of been in the mix at the end of the season when you're a little surprised that they're still in the conversation. To me, so much of that always felt like Mike Vrabel and Derrick Henry. I'm just so curious to see what this team looks like without him. This is the season, like you guys said, we get to see, is Will Levis the guy? He doesn't get me particularly excited like other quarterbacks do. And as I've mentioned many times, the Titans are just deeply forgettable to me. And most of the games I've been to in the NFL were at Nissan Stadium, and I just still perpetually forget they exist.
That's fair. I mean, they haven't.
That's it. I have the under. I have like 6 and 11, but they could get 10 wins or they could get 3, and I just don't know at all.
Katie, I'm not really. Look, I like synergy. I like teamwork, collaboration, but I'm not a big fan about how closely you and I are aligning on this show because there's a lack of variety here, and I'm not going to deviate.
I love that for us.
I do too. I'm not going to deviate. I'm right there with you at like 6 and 11 too. Just the way I run it down, I don't believe in this team enough. But the thing is there's a creeping sense that I have deep down in my gut, below the beers, where I think this team is built to be better than we expect. And Sean mentioned the receiving core. Like, they dumped Treylon Burks to second string outside of the top 3 receivers because they're like, we can't depend on Nick Westbrook-Akine and Treylon Burks to do it for us anymore. We need like legit playmakers. So they went and got him. And then they went and got a left tackle. And they invested in a guy who was a left tackle in college the year prior and moved to guard, Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. They got Lloyd Cushenberry, whose reputation is kind of up and down, but he's a center with experience. Right side of the line, a little worried about that. But if Will Levis can be anything near what he was last year in flashes under Brian Callahan, the new head coach who came from Cincinnati, where he was the quarterback's coach for Joe Burrow, then they'll be better than I think we expect offensively. Now, Tony Pollard as your lead back, bit of a risk, got hurt last year, wasn't good as a lead back. I don't feel great about it, but I love Tyjae Spears. That's a member of the Tulane Green Wave, and if anybody knows me, they know I love the Tulane Green Wave. So I like the backfield a little bit after losing Derrick Henry. And then defensively, like, they just went and added guys. Like, you look at their starting lineup, and like Jamal Adams is there. And Kenneth Murray is there at linebacker, former Chargers linebacker. Jack Gibbons was like a sneaky good linebacker last year that people didn't pay a ton of attention to because his name is Jack Gibbons and he's not super flashy, but he played a pretty solid linebacker. Jeff Simmons is a stud. They went and got Tavondre Sweat to plug up the gaps in the interior of the defensive line. Sebastian Joseph Day comes over with plenty of NFL experience as well. So like roster wise, it's like an assembly of veterans and a few young guys. And it's just like, we're throwing stuff at the wall. We're going to see what sticks. And we're going to hope that our rookie coach figures it out. And that's the big point that I'm not certain about is like, who are they under this coach? Nobody knows. We have no experience, no demonstrated history to lean on, which is why I side with Katie and say 6-11 based on the schedule. But deep in my heart, I wouldn't be surprised if they contended for the division or at least a wild card, at least into the late stretch of the season. Now, it's probably where it gets tough. You get Bengals, Colts, Jags, Texans. 2 of those games are on the road. That's probably where it falls apart. But I think they'll stay in the conversation longer than we expect, longer than I certainly expect. Because, look, ever since they fired Vrabel, I was just like, whatever. Like, whatever with this team. So we'll see. I don't know, but we'll see.
We shall see. So, I mean, I think we all agreed for pretty much all of these. We need to come
riveting
up with
content.
I know. Riveting
The 3
audio
best friends
medium.
that anyone
We need to just Yes, we are. Yes, we are. All right, on to the final segment of the night. Hate it or love it. I hope you guys came prepared this time around.
I have a hate.
I did.
All right, go ahead, Nick. Lead us off, Nick, with your hate.
Back injuries. Anybody who knows me knows I've dealt with back issues for the last 4 years. And I was moving an oven. My best friend bought a house recently, and they had a commercial oven in there, and he needed help moving it out. So who'd he call? His dad, his brother-in-law, and his best friend. And we showed up there on Sunday morning, and I might have been hungover, and I probably didn't stretch enough, and I wasn't hydrated properly. And we moved that on 2 giant pieces of lumber, and as we were getting down the front steps, it started to tip, and I went to grab it, and boom, my entire right side of my back lit up, which sent my entire right side of my torso into a spasm, which engaged my quadratus lumborum, that's a deep muscle belly, and my oblique, and my entire right side of my torso has been locked up for 3 days. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days. And it's not fun. I don't like getting old and having back injuries.
I was going to say, you're getting old there, man. You're getting old. I feel you on that one. Katie, what's your hate? What do you hate?
I hate that for you, Nick. That does really suck. I've had back issues my whole life, too. No fun.
No.
My hate this week, we talked about July Fest last week and the Canadian Bocce Championships.
Oh, no.
We had a very poor performance at the end, and we had a pretty bad time. The vibes around July Fest were a little apocalyptic.
Oh, no.
We could have called it Climate Change Fest. It was very deeply disturbing for a lot of it. Our first game Friday night, very poor showing. None of us played well. Saturday morning, we were in the zone. We won 12-2. All of us were having the best game of our lives, and then we had to play again at 4:40 in the afternoon. It was like almost 40 degrees. There was no one there because it was too hot. And then all of us were getting notifications on our phones of like, new wildfire near you, new wildfire near you, new wildfire. And I'm like, I'm not in driving condition right now to go home and grab my evacuation bag. So it kind of just turned into disassociation fest, and I pretended that everything was fine. But yeah, my favorite weekend of the year was a little bit traumatic.
Oh, I hate that for you, Katie. It was literally like the meme of the dog sitting in the burning house. This is fine.
Everything is fine.
Yes.
Yeah, so I tried to do what I can to take my mental state out of a sober space and forget about everything, but it proved to be very challenging because the whole energy of the weekend was just very different. Everyone was on the same page. We're like, usually it's lush green grass and we're playing on like straw because we have watering restrictions. Like, it kind of felt like, oh, this is like step one if we're in the bad place right now.
The future.
Trying to be drunk in a state of national emergency. It's a balancing act, It's a balancing act.
Doing what I can, Sean.
Yeah,
doing what I can to get by.
You would like hurricane parties, Katie. You would like hurricane parties, tell you that.
I've been in a tornado party, but not hurricane.
How do you plan for that? Those are pretty
those just kind of pop up, yeah.
Yeah, we were just happened to be having a party in Nashville. And
there we go. So it turned into a tornado party. I got you. I was like,
like, should we all maybe move this to the basement or?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
We'll take it down there. We're good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. All right, my hate this week. I hate when the Pirates can't give Paul Skeens run support. Granted, mine's a little bit more trivial than yours too, but he pitched tonight, 8 1/3, only gave up 4 hits, 2 earned runs, and he lost.
2-1?
2-1. Paul Skeens has pitched his last 2 outings, not counting the All-Star game. He has pitched 16 1/3 innings, and he's gotten 2 runs.
Yep, that is Corey Kluber's career for half of it. That's why he won multiple Cy Youngs.
That is just, oh man, we need some run support. We need a bat badly, and so
you're not going to get one because you're cheap, just like my team.
Exactly. I just hate. I hate the fact that happens. But we live and we learn. I don't know what they're going to learn.
She laughs from her throne of privilege, where her team spent money and tried to go all in and fell short to one of our cheap teams.
I laugh as such a fair weather fan of sport in general. I just like showing up and having snacks. This is why
Super
you watch
Zoom
the
on the
show
Gridiron Podcast.
and you don't listen to it because Nick just zoomed his face in to an irrational level.
Nick learned he had Zoom capabilities. Nick, please zoom in and tell us your love.
Zoom right in. There we go.
I don't know if I have.
I regret saying that.
Hi. Welcome to the Love Hour with me, your host.
Creepy man.
Nick
I'm
Shook.
so deeply uncomfortable right now.
All right, I'll back it up.
Please don't.
You asked for it. You want to look in these dreamy eyes.
I like living in the discomfort.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want super zoom, we'll provide. I love getting together with old friends. I am hitting the road this week to go down to North Carolina to Lake Norman to get together with a bunch of my college buddies. We rented a big house. We're gonna have like 3 days of debauchery, and if anybody knows what the last 7 months of my life have been like, your boy needs it, and I'm looking forward to it. Getting in the truck, hitting the road, meeting up with the pals, renting a boat, drinking a bunch of beer, jumping in the pool, hanging out in the hot tub, going out, having a great time.
This is the worst country song I've ever heard.
I know. I was in the back of my truck with my dog
One of the
and
best
my
I've ever
beer.
heard, in fairness.
It sounds like every other country song to be out there.
I can't wait, guys. Lake Norman's a magical place. I recommend that you all visit it. Sounds boring, but it's a man-made lake with a bunch of giant houses around it, and people just rent or take their pontoon boats out. There's like a sandbar in the middle where people just dock their boat like haphazardly and just party on this little beach. It's a freaking... I did my buddy's bachelor party there 2 years ago. I can't wait to cut loose and forget about everything for a few days.
Is this down by Charlotte?
Yes, it is. And
is this the lake that Gunter Steiner lives on?
It may be. That is the lake near Charlotte. So
I think that might be the lake Gunter Steiner and all the NASCAR drivers live on.
Yes, I know the NASCAR drivers do live on.
Yeah,
it.
Then Gunter Steiner lives.
Somebody has a seaplane with a ramp that it's dug right into the lake in their front yard.
Dude, Gunter,
Brother,
I don't know if he still lives there.
Gunther?
I don't know if he still lives there because he's not attached to Haas anymore, but you could potentially run into Gunter.
Well, if I do, I'll take a selfie and maybe I'll ask for some paddock passes so we won't get him again.
Yeah, happens.
Yeah.
Katie, what's your love?
My love, I'm also going away this weekend, except unfortunately I will be gone until probably Tuesday night, so I think I will be away from the next episode.
And we will miss you.
I'm going to Vancouver. It's one of my favorite cities in the whole world. A lot of family there, a lot of really dear friends there, and my grandmother just turned 104.
Yo,
but it's not
wait, hold on.
Bury the lead.
What?
What?
104?
What's your secret?
Unfortunately, I do not share
now. 3, 2,
her.
1.
Unfortunately, I do not share her genetics, as my real grandma passed away before I was born, and then she was married in. So my real grandma died really young, but she's still kicking at 104, and she lives on her own. She does her grocery shopping. She's like doing it on her own. She's like still just as funny. I'll send you guys a picture of her after. It's like crazy. She looks like she's 85, but I get to see her for the first time in like a year. I have so many friends there. If anybody hasn't been to Vancouver, good Lord, it is just one of the best cities ever. One of the best in Canada, but then also just like in general, it's got it all.
I'm gonna take a trip before long. You watch. You better meet me there.
104
It
is
is
the
like
new
a
85.
10-hour drive, but I can make it to Vancouver. I live in rural BC, so we have to drive to get anywhere. Our closest city is actually in Washington.
Ooh.
Yeah, Spokane. Ew.
I was going to say, is it Spokane?
Ooh.
Unfortunately,
What
it
is
is.
I have friends in Spokane.
Oh, I hate that for them.
Yeah, he's a meteorologist, so he likes it up there.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Katie,
that's
I
my
have to
love
say,
for
my great not to pivot this back toward me, but I can relate. Both of my great grandmothers each lived to 101, and one of them was a huge fan of The Price is Right. And she said she was straight fresh off the boat Sicilian, and she would just say, "I love the Baba Barker," and she cooked until she was like 99. Cataracts and all, made the best meatballs, veal, the whole nine.
Amazing.
And when she turned 100, somebody in my family notified The Price is Right, and Bob Barker wrote her a letter, and she hung it on her fridge till the day she died.
That is so amazing.
I love it about Barker.
I love the Baba Barker.
I just
Man, she
love
would
that.
go
Yeah, mine
nuts
got
if
the
we knew
letter
about
from the
Cameo.
Queen because she turned 100.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. Still goes to the
Wow.
casino like once a week at 104. So
Natural elderly lady thing to do. Go to the
I think
casino. Hell yeah.
that is the secret to longevity, just being in a smoke-filled
Yes.
room, betting.
Riding a heater.
I love
that's
it.
showbiz, baby.
My love. I love when I get to tell I get to tell feature stories for a living pretty much, but at the same time I love when I get to tell one that's just like super fun, and I got to tell a couple this week. One around a 13-year-old dog named Layla, and she was the Clearwater Threshers' bat dog. And Friday, she had her retirement party because she's slowing down. So they said, well, for your final game, we'll have the retirement party. And so she came out and got a bat for the final time, and they gave her a cake, and she was having a grand old time. And then I got to meet her a couple days later and do a story on her. And her sister Lucy is taking over for her. But I love dogs. I love my dog, and I love all dogs. So getting to do a story, combining my love for storytelling, sports, and dogs into one story, that was a lot of fun. So happy retirement, Layla the Bat Dog.
Oh, I don't know you, Layla, but man, do I ever love you.
She was a sweet old gal.
Layla. Oh, is that a Clapton song?
Got me on my knees. Layla.
There it
Yes.
is.
All right, an hour and 26 minutes into this sucker, we have covered the Hungarian Grand Prix. We have covered the AFC South. This has been episode 41 of the Gridiron Podcast. If you didn't say it earlier, the Shane Gostisbehere episode of the Gridiron Podcast. A real Florida man he is.
Nick had to ask
Nick
me how to
Shook.
pronounce it.
Oh, you said it? Gostisbehere. For Nick Shook and Katie Caldwell, I am Sean Barie. Thanks as always. Drop us a like, drop us a subscription. You can even email us at thegridironpodcast3@gmail.com. Thegridironpodcast3@gmail.com. We do appreciate those emails. Thank you so much. And as always, Nick, live life in the fast lane.
Good night, Canada.